Episode 2 of Severance. You won't believe some of the wild theories emerging from this episode, such as Miss Cobble being severed, the connection between Helly and Mark, and Irv and Bert's relationship outside of work. There are many fascinating details to discuss. So, warm up your waffles, like and subscribe, and let's dive into the world of Keir. The episode picks up right after the Season 1 finale, with Mark's Audi regaining control. This leaves the members of Rick's book club confused after Mark exclaims, "She's alive," referring to his deceased wife, Gemma. Mark believes he saw her dead body after her tragic car accident, so the term, alive, is used cautiously here. Observant viewers will notice a new opening scene featuring a car falling into a frozen lake, which may hint at Miss Casey's fate, as her case file is titled, Cold Harbor. A prevailing theory, which I explore in more detail in my Episode 1 video, is that the macro-refinement workers are reconstructing her memories to implant them into a Severance chip, possibly with the goal of resurrecting Keir Egan. Additionally, Mark jokingly refers to his sister as Pani, a Greek god whose name means, the bringer of death and destruction. The writers of Severance are intentional about the names they choose. For example, K derives from Gaelic, meaning, the Dark One, which is ironic given that Lumen, the company he founded, represents light. Irv lives in the Leonora apartment complex, where Leonora also means light. When we first see Helly's Audi, Helena, she clutches her neck, a reminder that her Innie recently attempted suicide by hanging. Her outburst at the Friends of Lumen Gala was another way her Innie tried to sabotage her. Her father, James Egan, who currently leads Lumen, scolds her with the term fatted moped, a derogatory term for a stinky child. This portrayal of James contrasts sharply with the loving father we saw in the season finale. Now, he seems more like an overbearing parent who only shows affection when she excels in her role at the company. This dynamic drives Helena to extreme lengths to seek his approval. There's a compelling theory that the Helly we saw in episode 201 is actually Helena in disguise. For instance, she struggles to find the on switch on her computer despite having worked there for weeks, and she falsely claims to have spoken with a night gardener. Her awkward hug with Mark after they previously kissed just 39 minutes earlier raises further questions. Helena appears unusually calm after her Innie was just fired up, exposing Lumen in front of a crowd. This episode reinforces the theory that Helena may be aware of Lumen's surveillance methods, as she is seen watching security footage. This could explain her knowledge of the absence of microphones in the break room and her investigation of a missing camera in the office. When Mr. Drummond, seemingly a fixer for the Egan family, tells Seth that the board will reinstate Helena, she gives him a knowing look, suggesting they've discussed her going down there as herself. Another interesting detail is that Helena's file at the end of episode 201 is titled, Santa Mira, the setting of the film, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Additionally, this episode reveals Milch's earlier lies from episode 201, where he claimed 5 months had passed since the Macroad uprising. In reality, only 48 hours have elapsed since Mark met his new co-workers, which explains why Milch is still moving into his office and why his computer hasn't been updated to greet him properly. The fallout from the events in the outside world hasn't been too damaging for Lumen. Footage of Helly's outburst at the gala has been controlled, and Nanel is managing the media response. We see Helena recording an apology video, attributing her outburst to a bad mix of alcohol and medication. It raises questions about who this video is intended for, the board, the media, or someone else. Additionally, it's curious why she records this on an outdated TV, considering Lumen is a multi-billion-dollar company. Take a look at the Lumen parking lot, where all the cars seem to be from the 1980s. It feels like we're in a world that's both familiar and different. 3 pieces of evidence support this theory. First, the Lumen introduction video states that the company has branches in all 206 countries worldwide, while our world has only 195. Second, the license plates lack state information, featuring only an image of Keir Egan and the Latin phrase, remedium hominibus, which means, a cure for mankind. Finally, there are multiple references to Lumen being headquartered in a state abbreviated as P, which doesn't exist in the US, yet it appears on a Lumen medicine bottle and a newspaper clipping found in Irv's apartment, as well as on Bert's address. Meanwhile, Dylan and Irv are fired by Lumen, but it's only for 3 days. Dylan learns that his Innie started a fight, which leads to him facing prejudice when he is denied a job at a door warehouse. It's ironic that he applied for a job at a place that makes products used for entering and exiting, considering his last job cut him off from the outside world. We also see his wedding ring and hear his wife Gretchen's voice. Dylan has 3 kids, one of whom we met in season 1, so he may be in urgent need of work. Additionally, Milch had previously misled Mark by stating that none of his co-workers wanted to return to Lumen, when in fact they were fired. Irv's situation is more mysterious. When Milch comes to fire him, he lies about his activities the night the Ennies took over their bodies. He admits that he woke up banging on Bert's door. In season 1, we learned that Irv's Audi had been investigating Lumen, and he possesses a document filled with names of severed employees, along with a map of Keir that includes Bert's name. Irv uses a payphone, looking around nervously as if he is being followed. He mentions, "You're not picking up, I get it. I want you to know Myeni got the message first." This implies he might be calling Bert, who could be watching him from a distance, explaining why he isn't answering. We don't know what Irv's Audi did after waking up outside Bert's, but since Bert's name is on his map, it's likely they're connected and may have spoken that night. If they had a romantic relationship inside, could that connection exist outside as well? The theme of the two sides of a severed mind merging is illustrated through Irv's paintings. He seems to know about the elevator with the red triangle. Milch also tells Mark that Irv's innie is in love, suggesting that this love might affect his outside life, although this could be a tactic to persuade him to return. Aside from Bert, Irv's message could be intended for Rabi, the woman who helped Petey reintegrate in Season 1 and appears to be part of a powerful anti-Lumen group. Other potential recipients of the message could be himself or Kubel. Regardless of who it is, they likely want to undermine Lumen. When Irv says, "I want you to know my innie got the message," it suggests that his innie has realized Lumen is not what it seems. Initially, Irv was a strong supporter of Kieran Lumen, but by the end, he wants to destroy the company. The catalyst for this change appears to be Bert's retirement, which may have been orchestrated by their respective Audis. It's worth noting that Bert's retirement song, "Time of Your Life," by Paul Anka, has lyrics about leaving memories behind. The record features the phrase, "Warhol's wormhole," a term describing a computer worm that spreads rapidly, which could symbolize Irv as a vulnerable machine now opposed to Lumen. Miss Kubel, who was fired last episode, has been promoted to head of the Severance Advisory Council. She alerted Lumen about the innies taking over the overtime contingency after Mark mistakenly called her Miss Cole instead of Mrs. Selvig. Cole claims that Helena and Lumen fear her, suggesting her promotion might be a strategy to keep Lumen's attention on her. It's interesting to consider why Lumen would fear her. We know Harmony has a connection to the Egan family, as she has a cult-like shrine in her home, keeps a photo of Keir, and can sing the latest Egan songs. One theory is that Harmony is an illegitimate child of one of the Egans, which could explain her loyalty to the company and why they keep her around to protect this secret. Another theory is that Harmony herself is severed. A brief moment in the overtime contingency room shows a name that could be hers. This could clarify inconsistencies in her character, such as her Audi claiming her mother was devoutly Catholic while her innie said she was an atheist. Moreover, her appearance shifts dramatically from professional at work to almost childlike at home, with pigtails and a nightgown. There's even a theory that Mark could be Cole's son, which might explain her strange connection with him, as she keeps an eye on him and bakes him cookies. In Season 1, Devon met a senator's wife at a birthing center who didn't remember anything a few days after giving birth. This raises the possibility that she could have been severed during her pregnancy, suggesting a severed person might have a baby without realizing it. If Mark is part Egan, it could explain Helena's shock upon seeing him, as it would feel like kissing a relative, which wouldn't be unusual for the Egan family. The Lumen Handbook from episode 108 mentions a close biological relationship between Keir's parents, which could have contributed to Keir's illnesses and his entry into the pharmaceutical industry. At the end of the episode, we see Cole leaving her home with a large suitcase. It's uncertain if she accepted Helena's offer, but she needs to distance herself from Mark, who is demanding answers. Their confrontation escalates when she almost runs him over after he questions her about Gemma. Taking over Cole's role as floor manager is Seth Milch, who spends most of the episode riding his bike and hiring or firing people. Interestingly, his helmet placement seems odd, almost as if it has a hidden camera recording them. Devon clearly doesn't trust the man who arrives at her home, prompting her to hide Mark's wedding picture. The takeover of the Audis lasted 39 minutes, coinciding with the length of a Season 1 finale. Milch lies about Lumen having no punishments and encourages Mark to return, likely due to his connection with Miss Casey. Helena indicates they need him back to finish Cold Harbor, Miss Casey's case file. Devon takes Mark to lunch at Pip's diner, where Pip stands for Performance Improvement Plan, which outlines employee improvement needs and can affect severance. Surprisingly, Mark doesn't want to investigate his missing wife, as it's too painful. Mr. Drummond, who is watching Mark, has a frolic tattoo, a symbol of Keir's tempers. Milch aims to bring Mark back to Lumen with a 20% pay raise and regular wellness checks, hoping his happiness will reflect positively on the company. Mark returns to work, but we see that Milch has replaced Mark's former co-workers in just 2 days. There's a branch called 5X, which Mr. Drummond questions, possibly related to Mark W's branch struggling to meet quotas. A time discrepancy occurs with Mark's elevator rides. He arrives at 9:03 a.m. and leaves at 9:15 a.m. Mark W., seen outside Lumen, was escorted away after the new workers were fired after 3 days. On day 1, Mark arrives at 9:04 a.m. and leaves at 5:12 p.m. On day 2, he departs at 5:20 p.m. Day 3 shows Mark arriving at 9:03 a.m. and leaving at 9:15 a.m., the same time he tries to contact the board and gets escorted out. The next day, Mark's new workers are fired, and Dylan, Irv, and Helena are reinstated. The new intro sequence will be analyzed in a separate video. In trailer sleuthing, Mark appears to be experiencing reintegration sickness, with scenes of him in work and casual clothing. We see more of Bert, who watches and Irv in a creepy underground tunnel. Mark and his colleagues create missing posters for Miss Casey and seek help from other departments. Flashbacks of Mark and Miss Casey will occur, and later, Mark gets intimate with Helena, who he hasn't met in the outside world. Mark will try to recruit members from a larger goat department in his search for Miss Casey. If we don't learn about the goats by episode 3, I'll make a video on theories about them. An outside element shows the Audis in winter coats, with Milch in all white. Robbie returns, indicating more outside influence against Lumen. What do you think will happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more.